Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hunt a Killer, Blair Witch. For some reason it looks like, what the fuck? Why is the preview window horribly zoomed in? Wow. Okay, that must be how it looks. That's not how it looks on OBS. Hold the phone. Wow, why is it doing that? I've never seen that before. Was that just me? Is anyone... No one's here. No one's here to confirm. There's like no... There's no easy way to go to like your stream page, like that people are actually watching. I wish there was a way to do that. Oh, here you go. Click this. I need to confirm. Okay, so it's just my preview window. Oh, here you go. Click this. I need to confirm. Okay. So okay. Good. All right. Anyways, fine. Then I won't worry about the preview window. Okay. So yeah, Blair Witch Hunt Killer, episode 4. We've got another box. It's got 9 items in it. And let's see, where were we? Where was the story? So basically, so we determined that the kid ran off into the woods. He had been speaking with this entity from the Blair Witch video game, Carver, who was basically like a thrall of the Blair Witch. And he had sort of lured this kid in, basically with the idea that his father was like still alive maybe, and he could take him to see his father or something like that. I mean, there was some witchery going on. The kid eventually realized that this is not good. This is some stranger danger. I should get out of here. He couldn't get out of there, but he got some of his like notebooks and some other materials out to us. And we deduced that Carver is now after Rosemary's other kid, who is completely unsuspecting. He wants both of them. So that's where we left off. I think we had an audio file of Rosemary like rushing into her home, hysterical, and she couldn't find her other kid. That's where we left off. So presumably the other kid's already gone. Dead and gone. I really... God, they use like super glue on this one. Oh well. We've got some stuff. Oh boy. We've got a compass, and it's in plastic. Who would... I mean, if I was sending something like this off to a detective to investigate, I don't think I'd find a perfect little plastic... All right, whatever. That's neither here nor there. That's just nitpicking. All right, so it's a compass. See, youngins? That's what a compass looks like I've ever used a compass. All right, on the back, it looks like etched into it by hand. Says each square an hour. You'll never be able to read that. Well, it's sort of close, but we've discovered this webcam only cares about my face. There you go, each square an hour. And then we have, sort of... Oh god, I don't want to break it. What the fuck? I thought this was just like a button. Oh, there we go. Oh! I did break it. Okay. Seems to be like a little magnifying glass. Odd. Why was that? I wonder if that's important. Oh, maybe I was supposed to just swing it out. Oh, that would make sense. That would make. Don't worry, we'll get to investigating soon. But I broke this, and I don't want it to be broke. Be here. Be right. Silly thing for me to get hung up on. We haven't even gotten to the puzzles yet. No wonder it was like way too much force. Definitely we're not supposed to do that. So it's supposed to just swing out. There you go. And then, whoa, so fancy. Anyways, we'll get to that later. We've got, so we got a letter from Rosemary as usual. We got a message from Carver. We got a note from Anthony at the History Museum. We've got a script for a historical reenactment. Account of search party expedition, building records, a map, the magnifying glass, and the compass. All right. Let's begin with the letter from Rosemary to us. Hello. Carver left me another message a few nights ago. He left a note right on my front doorstep. Of all the sick, invasive, downright evil things to do, hasn't this son of a bitch done enough to me? When will I have suffered enough? When I think about him slithering around out in the woods, looking at my house from the tree line and peering into my windows, my head gets light and I get so nauseated that I feel as though I might be dying. I can't sleep at all anymore. Every night I just sit up on the porch or in Tristan's bed with Hud's old shotgun in my lap until the sun finally rises. Sometimes I'll hear a noise in the night and run toward it, finally ready to pull the trigger on this lunatic, but it's only ever the wind. I haven't shown Lanning Carver's message. It'll just get sent off to some lab where it'll gather dust on a shelf for months, if not years. Even if it gets fast-tracked, what good will it do? The sheriff's office already knows where he is, and they're still not finding him. The forest is too huge and confusing for them to handle. It's time to take this completely into my own hands, like I should have from the beginning. Except for, you know, hiring me to do all the actual, intelligent work. There's no point in spending another second in this house, or this town. My sons aren't here. They're in that forest. Carver's only gotten cockier over these past few months. At this point, he wants me to come out and find him. Something in that note has to give us some sort of context as to where he's hiding. Luckily, even if the lead is obscure, we've got a bona fide expert on the Black Hills Forest on our side. It took a while to convince Anthony to help me collect what we need. He kept trying to talk me down at first. Eventually, I had to grab him by the shoulders, look him dead in the eyes, and tell him that there's already one man standing between me and my sons. That one man is already one too many. And that friendship or no, I'm prepared to bring that number to 0 by any means necessary. That finally convinced him to relent. Anthony gathered most of what I'm sending you from the museum attic. He said that since the forest is so dangerous, my best chance of making a successful journey out there was to study the accounts of people who made trips deep into the woods and lived to tell the tale. You'll need to cross-reference the map with the historical accounts Anthony has given us and find the location of Carver's hiding place. When you figure it out, send me the correct map coordinates on the tip line at kentcase.com. Even though I'm going to be totally alone out there, I have faith that the help I get from the outside is going to see me through. Rosemary. All right. Well, I mean, at least she's going out there and not me. Okay, we got a message from Carver here. Rosemary, the boys keep calling out into the woods for you, and you never answer them. You've really been letting them down over these past few months, haven't you? In fact, you've been letting them down for their entire lives. Never able to protect them, to comfort them, to realize the depth of their pain. At least now you'll never be able to fail them again either. Remember when you would play hide and seek with Liam when he was little? How he would always hide in the roots of that gnarled old tree at the very edge of the forest. I'd watch from the tree line, seen you pretend to search everywhere even though he always hid in the same place. I'm sure you wish it was that easy now, but this game is going to be a fair measure more challenging. You're not going to be able to just waltz into the woods and stumble upon the light of my campfire. That's not what she wants. She wants you to suffer. So do I. But if you're smart enough, maybe you'll be able to find your way to your sons. Maybe you'll even get a glimpse of dear old Hud. Oh, and in case you haven't figured it out yet, there's a reason that your search parties have failed to find me for so long. Sunlight conceals the truth of the forest. To see the light of my fire, you'll have to enter after dark. I don't need to tell you to come by yourself. I already know you will. And then there's a message in that encryption. So let's bust that open. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if when that new Saw movie comes out, Spirals or whatever, I wouldn't be shocked if they have Hunt a Killer do like a Saw episode. Because this is Lionsgate that's like sponsored this or whatever. Or that collaborated with them. So I really would not be shocked at all by that. Which would be cool. Bit grislier, but that's what we like. Okay, I gotta find my notes that has the... Here it is. Okay. Let's translate, shall we? My notepad here. All right. F-I. This is the most boring part of this. I think this is N, and that would be a D. Yep, find. Find. U-S, find us. W. Find. What is that one? Fuck it. What? I should have this on my notes. What? Gotta be a vowel. How do I not have this? Okay, I don't know. Skip it for now. Find us W something. E. R-E? Oh, where? There we go. Find us where. A. Find us where A. S. H. R. E. E. Find us where a shred of P. R. O. T. R. I. E. T. I. Find us where a shred of propriety. Wow. WASLOST. Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. And then he signs it with Carver. Okay. Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. All right, I imagine that's a pretty big clue. Keep that in mind. Let's look at this map. Let's crack this bad boy open. We got a big old map. Oh my god. Look at this map. I don't know if you can see the whole thing because it's blocking my face. Wow, what a map. It's not like a real topographical map. I think we can say that. It's I mean, it's well drawn, but it seems a bit more artistic than like really useful. You know, if I was lost in the forest or something, I don't know how well this would get me out. But okay. There's really just a few things noted here. There's Burkittsville in the southeast. There's the Creekside Timber Company outpost in the middle. And then there's like railway tracks or something that lead northwest to the Creekside Timber Company. All right. So somewhere here, but specifically, I'll note that it's got these labels. So it's got like A to S here on the top, and then numbered 1 through 14 on the side. So I imagine what we need to enter onto the site is going to be like H9 or something, you know, rather than typing the outpost. Okay, let's read this note from Anthony at the Burkittsville History Museum. Anthony, who is helping out with the investigation. Investigator, since Rosemary is truly hell-bent on doing this, and you're the one who's managed to help her get this far already, I'm going to do everything in my power to arm the both of you with as much information as possible. I collected a few things I think will help you navigate the forest. 3 historical documents, a map, a magnifying glass, and a compass. The 3 historical documents have each been taken from the museum's archives. I'm including them because they each convey the experience of someone who spent a prolonged period of time in the forest and came out more or less intact. I hope they'll provide some guidance on how to get your bearings in the woods and how to navigate between 3 of its major landmarks in particular once you do. I imagine the map and its accompanying instruments will be useful on that front as well. As far as I'm aware, the map itself is the most geographically accurate account of the forest to date. That's including satellite imagery. Digital imaging of the area has always proven to be a challenge. There's actually a very interesting history behind the map and the man who made it. Emmanuel Ramos was a renowned surveyor and cartographer who was hired by a now-defunct sawmill to chart out the area in 1953, after a number of the facility's employees began to complain that none of the maps of the area were accurate. As the story goes, Ramos became obsessed with the forest during that period. When he turned in the map, he told sawmill officials that traditional directions don't work in the forest, and that instead travelers had to move according to the cues that the land itself gives them. He said he considered the cues to be cardinal. That strikes me as a melodramatic way to describe the cartographic process, but I suppose that he'd earned the right at that point, seeing as he'd successfully charted a region that had confounded his colleagues for centuries. The record on Ramos gets a little hazy after that. He completely fell off the map, so to speak, within a year of completing the project. The compass and magnifying glass I'm passing on to you belong to Ramos as well. Maybe using them will help you see the forest the same way he did. Alright, I admit that I'm rambling on about obscure historical facts so I don't have to put my feelings into words. Detective, I want you to know that Rosemary is the strongest person I've ever met. She's managed to stand so tall for so long in the face of such unbelievable loss. But at the end of the day, she's only human. The forces she's going up against aren't. Please do the best you can to see her through this. Whew, okay. I gotta say, I really like this microphone. I don't know how amazing it sounds or not, but like just being unshackled, being able to lean back without, you know, a loss in like volume or anything, really great. All right. So we have, oh my God. What exactly am I looking at here? What is this called? Building records. This is the building records. So we have an image of a house. Now I assume this is meant to be like Rustin Parr's house, as always. It says here, she wants me to build stick-built stone foundation, window in the attic. She told me the spot, plaster interior, cement exterior. She needs a basement. She expects company soon. And then on the back, we've got a bunch of writings. Strap in. Alright, Mr. Kip. A fella stopped by the store as I was closing up just now. Damn near gave me a heart attack, since I could have sworn that I'd already locked the front door. It was that guy who's been living out in the woods. Can't for the life of me remember his name, even though I swear that he introduced himself to me. He bought supplies. Nails, shingles, things like that. Said that his place was damn near falling apart. Drew me a picture and made some notes so that I could get an idea of the scope of the project. Said he might come tomorrow morning for more supplies. Wanted to give you a heads up about it in case you're the only one in, because, frankly, he doesn't seem to be entirely right in the head. He was caked in dirt. There were all manner of rotting leaves and pieces of sticks tangled in his beard, and he kept trailing off in the middle of his sentences. But surprisingly, he had enough money, and with the way business has been lately, I could hardly turn a customer away. Signed, Ned. P.S. Where'd all the scrap paper that we usually keep under the counter go? I went to look for something to write a note on, but this drawing was the only paper on hand. How handy for us. Mr. Kip, you're not gonna believe this. Just now I was closing down the store when I heard a dull scratching sound coming from the wall behind the register. Remember last spring when the rats got in the walls? It sounded like that, so I headed to the basement to get the traps. I was only away for a few seconds, but when I came back upstairs, the hermit was in the store again. He was scraping something along the wall with a rusty old knife. I hollered at him to cut it out. He stopped, but he didn't even apologize. Just turned around and demanded that I sell him a shovel because she needed his basement to be deeper. Can't believe a guy like that managed to land himself a wife. I had him pay extra on account of the damage he did to the wall. Looks like he carved a bunch of stick figures. Would you mind painting over those when you get the chance? I'd do it myself right now, but it's late and I've frankly got a pretty bad case of the heebie-jeebies just looking at the things right now. Okay. Mr. Kip. Guess I can just use this sheet as a running log of hermit updates. He visited again towards closing today. Said he needed an extra pair of hands to help him with a project because it needed to be done fast. Offered me a good amount of money to help him out on my day off from the store tomorrow, and I said yes. Thought I'd let you know just in case. And don't worry, I'll be bringing my hunting knife just in case he's really as off his rocker as people around town say. Mr. Kip, I know it's my day off, but I stopped by to tell you to ban that hermit from the store. Guess you're out on your lunch break. But listen, the man's a menace. I met him on the edge of the forest at sunrise today to walk up to his house. We started on the path to the lumber mill, but soon veered off from the path entirely. We walked in one direction for what I would judge to be 5 hours. As we walked, the hermit would occasionally mutter under his breath to himself, like he'd completely forgotten that I was there at all. I could barely hear what he was saying, but I thought that I could make out something about heading toward that horde of bones. We eventually reached a stream, and when we did, it was like he suddenly remembered that I existed again. He turned to me and he started talking about how there's a part of the forest where she pinned the shadows in place with pine needles, and that he made sure to build his place as far away from them as he could. He said that his cabin was another 3 hours down the river, away from the still shadows. He told me that I should count myself lucky, that I wouldn't have to see those shadows just yet. Maybe it was just because I was spooked, but in the moment it sure as hell sounded like a threat. I made some excuse about forgetting that my ma wanted me home by lunch and said that I couldn't help him out with his repairs after all. Then I all but ran back to town. I just thought you should know that I'm not going to be serving him anymore. If he comes into the store again, I'm just going to hide out in the basement until I hear him leave. I know that's not very professional, but it's the only thing I think I'll be able to do if I see him again. And that's God's honest truth. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Kip. Alright, and then on the side here, someone else signed. This is Anthony. This is an architectural drawing, complete with a series of handwritten notes that's been on file at the museum ever since Kip's Hardware Depot collapsed in the mid-1940s, due to a devastating infestation of parasites and mold that the original owners couldn't afford to repair. The lot stood empty until Mike and Bob's convenience store was built in 1951. It pains me to part with this piece of local history, but I don't think that anybody at the museum besides me will even notice its absence, and I know that you're going to put it to good use. Alright, so really all we care about is the last section there, when he went into the forest, and obviously we're trying to find where Rustin Parr's house is. And that's going to be easier said than done due to the odd nature of the forest. But like now this makes sense. Each square an hour. So that we can determine that the average person, I guess, crosses a square on the map in 1 hour. So that'll be useful. I don't know what the magnifying glass will be used for. Alright, then we have... Okay. Then we have the account of search party expedition. I've scanned a few journal pages of a young man named Aloysius Masters for you. Mr. Masters was a member of a search party that combed through the forest for a number of days in the late 19th century, making several valuable, though largely unconfirmed and inexplicable observations along the way. Masters' journals were passed down through his family for years before being donated to the museum by a great-great-granddaughter who was moving out of town and didn't want to carry much of the past with her. Hopefully her loss will be your gain. This is... Okay, hold on. I need to find, like, if there's just, like, a normal text transcript of this, because this is, like, impossible to read. I mean, I probably could work my way through it, but... Let's see if there's an alternative. But episode 4. I have a password here. Physical document. Oh no, it won't. Oh, here we go. Transcript. Perfect. Oh, this is excellent. Well done, Hunt a Killer. Alright. March 14th, 1886. Back in town now. spent the day out in the forest once again. Traveled several hours past the bone-white rock where we ended our search yesterday, but still to no avail. We 14 able-bodied men, volunteers from about town who knew the area and its peculiarities well, have not been able to find any sign that another human being has even been in these woods at all. It was tragic, yet not unsurprising, when that young girl became lost in the forest. It still disturbs me to the utmost degree, however, to think that the first group of men sent to search for her should disappear as well. We, the 14 members of the second search party, count our friends and brothers and sons amongst the lost, and we have found neither hair nor hide of them, and not of the girl herself, for 2 days now. The only discovery of note thus far was that of a puddle of some viscous substance that none of us could rightly identify, which one man nearly lost a boot to when he accidentally stumbled into it. Though I do not put much stock in the ghost stories used to frighten children in these parts, I still become deeply unsettled when I set foot into the forest. I feel as though a weight has been pressed upon my shoulders. A pair of eyes is focused on the back of my neck. We will take up the search once again at sunrise. I hope that tomorrow's effort brings us greater success. So, this is the second search party that went after a girl that went missing in the woods. And I believe that's what we're talking about here. Although I thought that the girl returned before the second search party even went out. And they went out to find the first search party that went missing and still didn't return. But maybe this is just unrelated to that. That's like a well-known part of the mythos. They might have just made up another one. Alright, March 15th, 1886. Mr. Robertson, who misjudged a step into that strange puddle, returned this morning with a pair of borrowed boots. He complained that even though he had hung his boots above the fire all night, they continued to be soaked with the strange substance he stepped into. Near the end of the day's search, a member of our party called upon us to report that he had found a human tooth embedded into the gnarled stump of a white tree when he had attempted to set down to rest upon it. The men wasted almost an hour of daylight debating the tooth, half insisting it was indeed human, while half swore it appeared to belong to an animal. One young man named Thomas Gillard was frightened beyond belief by it, trembling like a leaf in a gale as he insisted that the witch had set her gaze upon us. I stayed silent, as I did not know what I believed. We found nothing else of note. When we returned to town, it was with heavy hearts and slumped shoulders, especially once we spied curious children and wistful wives watching us return utterly empty-handed. We all went to our homes shaken and shamed. I am certain I will not be the only man tonight praying for some sign of the missing men. March 16th, 1886. Thomas Gillard refused to return to the wood today. When the 13 of us came to collect him, we found that he had barred his doors and hung a cross in his window, and he refused to speak to any of us. We embarked without him. Though we encountered neither monsters nor witches, strange events did occur during today's search. While I am by no means ready to join Mr. Gillard in his beliefs concerning witchcraft, I feel I must describe the day's events to assist my own understanding. We began our day much the same as we always had, by spreading out in a formation intended to cover as much ground as possible. We left perhaps 40 feet between each man to properly sight any potential clues. I can recall with absolute clarity Mr. Josiah Johnson, our party's leader, standing to my direct left. We came upon the large white rock once again, and were about to set out from the stone when I noticed a faint sound. I listened closely to locate the source of the sound, and though it eluded me, it soon became apparent that the sound itself was that of a man calling for help. I turned to my left to alert Josiah, but saw another man instead. Mr. Johnson was now standing to my right, although I had not once veered from my course, nor had I seen another man cross my path. When I attempted to alert Mr. Johnson and the others of the noise, no other man seemed able to hear it, though it was only increasing in volume and desperation. Despite this, the men swore to me that the forest was silent as the grave. It was then that I began to hear the voice screaming out my name. I insisted that we follow it. I must have seemed either quite sincere or quite desperate, because Mr. Johnson agreed to break from our planned course. From where we stood at the large white rock, we followed the stream toward the sound I heard. Almost as soon as we changed course, we came across a pile of dead rodents, 10 or more. They appeared to have died fighting one another. Their flesh was torn to shreds. We walked 2 hours in that same direction, the smell of their rot seeming to linger with us long after we had passed them. Then, as we neared a fork in the stream, we sighted a wisp of smoke in the distance, at an angle from our current course. It surprised us all, especially myself. I had been a resident of the town of Burkittsville for the better part of 20 years, and with the exception of certain old wives' tales, there have been no accounts of anyone taking up residence this far out in the woods. We turned slightly to head toward the smoke. We traversed 3 hours through ancient oak trees. I remember thinking the sound of the wind through the trees' leaves sounded not unlike the whispering of an old woman, and then I realized that I did not feel any wind upon my face. I was about to comment on the strange phenomenon of the wind to the other men when I spotted the cabin. The home was a small structure, in ill repair. I would have thought it abandoned if it were not for the steady stream of thick smoke that floated from the chimney. We went closer to inspect it. It required us to navigate a very short stretch of hilled terrain. Our sightline of the house was interrupted by one of these hills, and when we managed to crest the hill itself and regain what should have been a direct sightline, the structure was gone. We searched the entire area, but not a single one of us could find any trace of the cabin again. The stream of smoke remained in the sky directly above where the cabin should have been. Mr. Johnson insisted that the sighting of the cabin and the smoke must have been no more than a trick of our own minds, experienced by many men due to our desperation. Though I took a small delight in not being the only man glimpsing some sort of phenomena, I could not help but think enviously of Thomas Gillard sitting in the safety of his home. March 17th, 1886. 2 members of our party vanished during our search. The first was Mr. Robertson, who seemingly disappeared into thin air half an hour after he crossed into the wood. Some other man turned to call for him, I do not recall who, and then that calling intensified to a frenzy, and soon the whole search party was running about searching for him. Some suggested he may have turned coward and headed home, as Mr. Gillard had, but a moment later we set eyes upon a small bundle of sticks wound with a set of slime-covered bootlaces. Mr. Michaels disappeared shortly after. He volunteered to head back to town to see if he could find Mr. Robertson. As it turns out, he never completed his journey. When the remaining 11 of us returned at the end of a fruitless day, it was to the screaming and hysteria of the town. Apparently, sometime during our excursion, someone had placed small wooden effigies in the shapes of men on the doorsteps of Robertson's and Michael's homes. Though I did not know either of these men well, I am deeply affected by their strange and sudden loss. Mr. Gillard made the right decision when he chose to stay out of these woods. March 18th, 1886. Last night I dreamt that I was alone in the woods in the dead of the night. As I stumbled around in the dark, I noticed 2 lights in the distance. They hovered among the trees for a long moment before being snuffed out, leaving me totally alone once again. I cannot help but believe them to be the souls of Robertson and Michaels, lost inside that labyrinthine wood. Or perhaps they were a pair of eyes. I woke this morning covered in sweat, with 2 small pinpricks upon the back of my neck. They continuously bleed no matter the amount of pressure that I place upon them. I tell myself again and again that it must be nothing other than a spot where I had pricked myself upon a thorn or branch during yesterday's search. After summoning all of my remaining courage, I joined the search party once again. We numbered 5 in total today, as half of the remaining men have refused to join us again. About 3 hours into the day, Mr. Johnson claimed to have caught sight of a boot print. My hopes were momentarily lifted, and I ran to see his discovery. However, I tripped on the way over and hit my mouth on a rock that lay on the forest floor, biting my tongue as I fell. My mouth filled with blood, which soon began to dribble out onto my clothing. I soon realized that the rock had knocked one of my front teeth out of my mouth, although I could not find it anywhere on the forest floor. Perhaps I swallowed it in my confusion and pain. To add insult to injury, it soon became apparent that there had been no boot print on the ground after all. The men did what they could to aid me, but we decided to call the day's search short, as we deemed it unwise to separate and allow me to return to town alone. We returned minutes before sunset, although there should have by all account been hours of daylight remaining. March 22nd, 1886. I have waited several days to collect myself, and I feel as though it is time that I recount what our party discovered on the 7th day of our search. We did indeed find the missing men from the first search party, but it was in no condition any man should be found. I would not wish the violence that was inflicted upon them even upon my worst enemy. We discovered them by the same large white rock we saw on our very first day of scouring of the woods. They were long dead and had been butchered like animals, all laid out upon the rock in some unnatural formation that I can only assume be some form of satanic glyph, as it matches the symbols drawn onto their bodies in intermingled blood. The authorities have arranged a search for a madman or men and posted guards on the road to town. The guards are to remain there at all hours, but something tells me the perpetrators will elude their grasp. Something tells me they cannot be grasped at all. Alright. That was good. That was good. I mean, the girl, so it was what I was talking about. It was like the well-known case, but the girl had definitely been found by the time that they found the first search party. So, I don't know. Maybe they just got something wrong, or who's to say? They have a picture, of course, in case you need a graphic. Ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba. There you go. Okay. And then finally, the last piece of obvious text is a screenplay. No, this would be just a play. A script of a play. Is there a better word for that? It's just it's a script. I don't know. Written by Anthony on the execution of the Blair Witch. How do you like that? So he sent us Act 1, Scene 5. This script is a section of a historical play that I staged a few years ago titled The Past Never Dies, a first-person anthology of tales from Old Blair. This particular scene is a dramatization of the Honorable Judge Jonathan Goodneighbor's journal entries, written just a few months before his death in 1785. Goodneighbor's journal was originally found in the walls of the museum during HUD's renovations. A rat had made its nest out of the pages, but the few sections that were still legible have provided a fascinating insight into the trial and condemnation of the alleged Blair Witch. While the lack of concrete information regarding the accused witch's death, those particular pages having been long since lost, forced me to take a number of creative liberties and make some educated guesses, all of the information on the directions that Goodneighbor took in the forest itself are accurate to history. How convenient. Alright. Interior. Judge Goodneighbor's quarters. Afternoon. Goodneighbor paces the floor of his bedroom and crosses to his desk. Sitting, he prepares his journal and writes. This is the journal of Jonathan Goodneighbor, recorded this horrid evening, February 17th, 1785. The townsfolk complain of witchcraft. Many children bear the same mark on their wrists from where she carved and siphoned blood. It was told to me that she collected the blood into several small bowls and arranged them in her cellar into some satanic symbol. I, being a godly man as well as a man of the law, ordered an investigation to be conducted at once. An hour's walk into the forest, we discovered the old woman's home, circled with fencing of wood bound in twine. Rushing inside into the fruit cellar, we found her standing in the corner, as if expecting our arrival. I saw no sign of the ritual and no evidence of her working her craft. It made no difference. She had ample time to conceal her doings, and the children's testimony was damning enough. We bound the hag in shackles and carried her to meet justice. Goodneighbor leans back in his chair, deep in thought. He stands, crossing to the window to stare out at the town. We must put this witch on trial and submit her to her punishment with utmost haste. Okay. Interior, Judge Goodneighbor's quarters, night. Goodneighbor angrily storms into the room. It is dimly lit by a single candle. A storm rages outside the window. His desk is cluttered with books. He sweeps his arm across the tabletop, throwing the mess to the floor. He sits and furiously begins to write. February 21st, 1785. Though the children of Blair exposed her deeds, the old woman had nothing to say on the matter. Even when I bellowed at her in a most thunderous voice to reveal her true purpose, she said nothing. Finally, I was left with no option but to take a hot poker to her skin. Well, it was 1785. A reminder of the everlasting hellfire which awaits all those who refuse to repent. She did not so much as flinch. No mortal could have withstood the searing pain of that fire, and so it was proven in her silence that she was indeed wed to the devil. The trial was complete. The windows blow open, extinguishing Goodneighbor's candle. The stage is dark. Damned storm! A flash of lightning briefly illuminates the room, revealing an old woman watching Goodneighbor as he closes the window. He doesn't seem to notice her. The room returns to darkness, and when Goodneighbor relights his candle, she's gone. That would be impressive on a stage. Cool. He continues. As I delivered the sentence, I expected some cry or protestation, and yet she sat staring at the wall with unfocused eyes. Come the morning, my companions and I shall bring the witch to a quiet place to carry out her sentencing. With a heavy sigh, Goodneighbor lays down his quill. Interior, Judge Goodneighbor's quarters, day. Goodneighbor appears exhausted. He has heavy red scratches on the left side of his face and neck. His robes are torn and his boots are muddy. February 22nd, 1785. And so the courts have done their work. The law has been upheld. Desiring to place distance between ourselves and the fair town, we traveled until we came upon a huge bone-white rock. I suggested that we complete the deed there, as it seems as good a spot as any. However, we soon began to hear a terrible noise, the sound of hundreds of crows cawing in the distance. I judged the birds to be an hour from our position at the rock, but their cries echoed in a most loud and ominous manner. Doubtless an omen. As they crowed in the distance, we pummeled the witch as punishment for summoning the beasts. Still, she made no sound. Though the witch was silent, the forest was not. The sound of cawing crows still echoed from a particular region of the forest itself, as if the land had taken on the cries of the birds and amplified them 100-fold. As the others clutched their ears in pain and fear, I found myself clutching at my greatest comfort, a locket containing a lock of my dear wife Propriety's hair, to compose myself as I recited the Lord's Prayer. Unwilling to remain in the same vicinity as the beasts, we turned from our position at the rock and fled for 5 hours in total, going the opposite direction from which the cacophonous cawing had so ominously emanated. While we fled the noise, I noted that a certain region of the forest contained a number of trees that appeared to have been ravaged by a large creature of some sort, and I warned my men to keep their wits about them. I was quite relieved when we left this particular area behind us. Our group continued, straight forward on the course we had set away from the terrible noise. When the last sounds of the crows had faded and the forest was silent as the grave, save for the sounds of our party's footsteps, the witch finally broke her days-long silence. She requested that, were she to be left to die, she would be left in a grove of trees that she often sat amongst in moments of silent contemplation. We, being an honorable and compassionate group of men, obliged. She turned at a slight angle and led us in a new direction, with myself directly at her back, keeping a keen eye out for any sign of treachery, and my men behind me. As we walked, I began to hear behind me my men murmur dreadful utterances about how we and our children would be doomed for our trespassing and our violence. I turned and ordered them to be quiet, but each and every man insisted that they had not uttered a word. After traveling for 2 hours in the witch's chosen direction, we came upon a hollow with a white tree at its center. I moved to bind the witch to the tree, a twisted, dying thing. Seeking out one final opportunity to sate her bloodlust, the witch clawed at my face and neck as I bound her, screeching all manner of hellish condemnation and tearing the locket from my neck. It was then that my companions fled, leaving me to carry out the deed on my own. Perhaps they feared she would soon break free of her bindings, and so I was left alone to complete the task. Her strength surprised me, but the power of all that is holy remained on my side, and I succeeded in my efforts to subdue her. I completed the deed, so full of fear that I momentarily forgot about the locket, turned my back on the witch to return home. As I left the hollow, I began to feel an agonizing sensation of burning on the back of my neck, as if 2 hot coals had been pressed into my very flesh. I did not turn around to see what was behind me. Instead, I began to run back to town, not slowing or turning back once for the entire journey. Regretfully, I must leave my beloved locket behind. A fear grips me that, should I attempt to return to the forest again, I might not return home. From outside the window, the figure of an old woman in a dark and heavy cloak slowly approaches, watching Goodneighbor. This would be a really boring section of a play, by the way. This guy's just at a desk, just narrating his journal. I comfort myself with the knowledge that the witch's twisted heart will lie far away from civilized society forevermore. Still, I confess that I cannot forget the sound of her final cries, and of the terrible curse she uttered with her last gasping breath. But I comfort myself with the knowledge that, at last, this horridness is behind us. The old woman stands, staring in through the window, no longer at Judge Goodneighbor, but at the audience. Woohoo, Anthony! Alright, that's all the obvious text. Of which there was quite a bit. So now, we have to suss out all these different directions and travel times in the woods. Try and figure out, I guess, where Rustin Parr's cabin is. That would be my assumption of what we're trying to do here. And before we get to that, let me run the handy dandy pen over everything just to look for any hidden text. Not that I mean, these are like photocopied pages, and the hidden text is usually from the kid, and none of this came from the kid, so I don't expect to find any. But you never know. Let's get the back of the map just in case. Okay, it's fine. Got the... No. Nope. Check Carver's note. No. Okay, no hidden text. Good. Now, Carver's note had this encrypted message that read, "Find us where a shred of propriety was lost." Now that tells me that perhaps we're not looking for Rustin Parr's house. We're looking for the grove of trees, the white tree, where the judge lost the locket that contained the hair of his wife, Propriety. That seems to me like the most obvious assumption, because if we start to try and like figure out and interpret what he means by propriety in some sort of abstract sense, rather than just dealing with the the guy's wife's who's named Propriety. I mean, that seems a bit more likely. So, specifically, okay, so they were at the rock, all right? They were at the rock where they found all those corpses. The big rock. They fled from that rock. In the opposite direction of where the crowing was coming from. They fled for 5 hours. And that's when the Blair Witch requested that she would be left to die in a specific spot. So she led them in a different direction for 2 hours. And they came upon the white tree. And that's where he lost the locket. So all right, we have a destination where we're looking for the white tree. So step one, I would say, is interpreting and figuring out where the rock is. And I don't know really why they gave us a compass. But as for the magnifying glass, there is some very small text in a couple places here. So over here, it says deep underground, ancient roots, wind, probably. Okay, hold on. It's like written in a circle. Wind through shattered skulls. Okay. Deep underground, ancient roots wind through shattered skulls. I don't know what that means, but I'll write it down. Underground, ancient roots wind through shattered skulls. Okay, that's one thing. See this. Tears of the drowned ceaselessly. God damn. It's like super tiny. Ceaselessly flow down the creek. Tears of the drowned ceaselessly flow down the creek. Okay. Hold on. Okay. That's another one. What else we got here? Though the sun moves through the sky, the shadows of the pines stay fixed in place. Okay. Though the sun moves through the sky, the shadows of the pines stay fixed in place. This is gonna be something to interpret. My magnifying glass broke. Damn it. Okay. Stay. It's never, I like permanently broke it. Not that it really matters. I mean, once I'm done with this game, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep this. Okay, continuing on. Let me look for some more text. Lost souls weep from nostalgia and regret. Wondering if this is actually useful. Oh man, this text is tiny. The ground with its dreadful murmurs will cradle careless travelers for eternity. All right. Ground with its dreadful murmurs will cradle careless travelers for eternity. That's what it said. I don't want to double check. All right. There's like a lot of it too. Got at least like 5 more. Okay. The sky shines bright. What? Ked. What the fuck? Did that say Ked? Dude, I can't even read this with the magnifying glass. Shines bright. I mean, it looks like Ked, but that's not a word. Shines bright. Ted. That wouldn't make sense. Oh, red! That makes sense. The sky shines bright red. The sun and moon are nowhere to be seen. Jesus. Nowhere to be seen. Okay. Go blind trying to read this shit. Alright. Fine. Doesn't help that my room's not very bright. The heavy limbs of trees are scattered with claw marks and carvings. Scarred. Scarred, not scattered. The heavy limbs of trees are scarred with claw marks and carvings. Alright. We're getting there, man. Getting there. Here I saw the eyeless creatures hoard their bones. Oh, someone mentioned bone. Here I saw the eyeless creatures hoard their bones. That's a useful clue, I think. Here the vermin. It's written in a fucking spiral, god damn it. Here the vermin fester in the bleak in the bleak sunlight, but dance under the light of the moon. Okay. The crows feed at blood red dusk. Oh god, what the oh man. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get this one. It's written like in the dark of the mountain and just like I hear a I literally there's no way I can read this word. I'll have to look it up. I hear her something the oak trees and leap into the air, but I will not give in. Forks of lightning erupt from the clear sky. I think that's all of it. I think that is all the hidden text. I feel like I've gone blind. Okay. So something the Horde of Bones, right? That was something. Is that from... That was from Ned? Here. We started on the path to the lumber mill, but soon veered off from the path entirely. We walked in one direction for what I would judge to be 5 hours. As we walked, the hermit would occasionally mutter under his breath to himself, blah, blah, blah. Could barely make out something about heading toward the Horde of Bone. We eventually reached a stream. Okay, so the path to the lumber mill. But then veered off towards the Horde of Bone. Okay. Alright. I don't know how I'm going to be able to really show this to you, but here. Okay, so here's Burkittsville, right? This is Burkittsville. Ned says they started on the path here towards the lumber mill. Goes all the way up to the northwest. He says they veered off the path entirely and walked for 5 hours, apparently towards a Horde of Bones. This text here mentions a Horde of Bones. He said 5 hours and they ended up at a stream. 1 hour is 1 square. So 1, 2, no, that's not. Well, if you count this square, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I don't know how that helps us, but said his cabin was another 3 hours down the river away from the still shadows. Though the sun moves through the sky, the shadows of the pines stay fixed in place. The part, I mean, that's the only thing though about the something about pinned shadows in place with pine needles. The only place it talks about shadows and staying in place is text in the upper left of the map, the northwest. So if we interpret that as the area where the shadows stay fixed in place, then he would go east. So he went east for 3 hours. 3 hours downriver away from the still shadows. Okay. I don't know if we count the square from where we started. Well, in this case, we did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can interpret then that Rust and Parr's cabin is either Q7 or R7. I'm gonna write that down. Q7 or R7, pending. Let me get some music going here. Okay, so we have Rust and Parr's cabin. I don't know really how that helps us, but it's something. Okay, let's look at some other directions then. Let's go with the search party. Okay. Search party found the rock on the first day. Several hours past the Bone-Right rock. Puddle of some viscous substance. Came upon the large white rock once again. From where we stood at the large white rock, followed the stream toward the sound I heard. And then they came across a pile of dead rodents. There was something that mentioned rodents, right? Something. Here. Here are the vermin fester in the sunlight. In the bleak sunlight. Okay. What? But this is like... This is so far from the fucking town, though. Torn red. Two hours in the same direction. We neared a fork in the stream. I mean, so he says at the rats they walked for 2 hours and then they ended up at a fork at the stream. So if you look at the map, here, this spiral text, that's where the rats are. 1, 2, fork in the stream. Which means that the rock is like up here or something, you know? I guess it could be, but I didn't expect it. No. Okay, so then they turned at an angle because they saw smoke in the distance and they walked for 3 hours. So 3 hours from the fork in the road. Or fork in the stream. 1, 2, 3. That would be R7. But that's if you don't count the first square. So I don't know what to think about there. I mean, maybe this is all approximation, but that makes sense. That, I mean, it pretty much makes sense. But okay. So what we're trying to find is the rock, which, based on this text, came up. Large white rock. Followed the stream. Right. So I feel like the rock has to be like 02 or 01. Based on this. I did not expect the rock to be that far from town, but let's go with the assumption of rock 02 or 01. Okay. All right, so then that leaves the play script that tells us how to get to the tree, which is what we're really looking for. Desiring to place ourselves between a distance between ourselves and the fair town, we traveled until we came upon a huge bone-white rock. However, we soon began to hear a terrible noise, the sound of hundreds of crows cawing in the distance. I judged the birds to be an hour from our position at the rock. Now, if we look at the map, there's some hidden text that is an hour, or 1 square, away from 02, that says, the crows feed at blood-red dusk. So, if we interpret the crows as being at P2, rock, 02, think we're good. They beat the shit out of the witch. The crows kept getting louder. They ran from the crows. They fled for 5 hours in the opposite direction of the crows. And then he says they found some trees that looked like they've been ravaged by a large creature. And 2, 3, 4 hours from the rock, there's text that says the heavy limbs of trees are scarred with claw marks and carvings. So I think they went to K2. Okay, so let's say they're at K2. And this is when the witch requested to be taken in a new direction for 2 hours at an angle. At a slight angle. Now, she couldn't have gone north out of the map because that wouldn't make sense. So she either went southwest or southeast at an angle for 2 hours. Again, I don't know if they're counting the current square or not. but I would say we're probably looking at I4. I3, I4. Oh no, J3 or I4, depending on if they count the square. This would be my guess for what we're looking for. So let's try punching it in, see what happens. I don't know if there's a penalty. Kent Case, kentcase.com. And the password this time is Echo12. Alright, there's some text pictures, but I want to just punch in this clue first. Let's go with I4. What does that get us? Not sure what you're talking about. Great. That doesn't bode well. J3? Not sure what you're talking about. Shit. Okay, we either misinterpreted it or... Let me try I3. Maybe I read this wrong. Not sure what you're talking about. Well. Okay, she could have gone in some other direction. It could be L3 or M4. Let me just try those real quick, I guess. No. Okay, maybe she's just looking for white tree, but then... Oh no. What? Okay, it has to be 3 letters? Three characters is all they're accepting. How would that make any sense? What the fuck? 3 characters? That's what you're looking for? Well, now I'm confused. Character. Okay, well, we have hints. Okay, yeah, I did all this. That's good. Each square an hour. That makes sense. Yep. No, I got all that. Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. I got that. Yeah, I know that. Here's all the hidden, or the, you know, the small text on the map. Well, I hear her whisper to climb the oak trees. Okay, yeah. Okay, I definitely got the Hoard of Bone. Preston Parr's house is at R7, just like I said. Yeah, I got that. Okay. Festering Vermin. Yes, I got that. 03. The Bone White Rock is located at 02. Yeah, I got that shit. That's no problem. 5 squares left of the Bone White Rock to J2. J2? Wait, what? 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh, okay. So they didn't count the first square. See, that's what's fucking me up, is that they didn't count the first square in this example, but other times they do count the first square. So the Witch's Hollow is located at H4. So really, I was like one off. All right, that was it. All right, I was one off. I think we did a lot better this time than the last episode.
Good. I've been waiting out here for a few hours. Something told me that you'd find me the answers that I needed today. Now I know where to go. Thank you. Whoa, hold on, boy. Hold on, let me get my bag. You know, it's kind of a relief to be out here. The house is unbearable. It's so quiet. And I hate being at the Silver Moon. I can't stand the looks everyone gives me. More and more lately, I've just been staring out into the woods, or reading about the woods, or sitting up in the middle of the night thinking about the woods. I know, buddy, I know. He seems antsy. I hope he'll be able to pick up a scent. I've noticed when I come out here to search for the boys that the further you go in, the quieter it gets. It's not a peaceful quiet, though. It's tense. Like the whole forest is holding its breath. Hud and I would come out here sometimes when we were first started dating. He knew all kinds of facts about nature. Moss grows on the north side of a tree, he'd say. I have no idea if that's actually true. We used to chase each other around and leave each other these little notes. And then a few years later, down the road, Hud started bringing Liam to cut wood with him until I lost him to this place. Oh, we're going to get my sons out of here. Even if I have to end up just like Hud to do it. Goodbye for now.
Good luck. All I can say. All right. Well, there's still 2 episodes to go, so I assume she doesn't die immediately because she's got to keep sending us packages. But yeah, I think we handled this one pretty well. It was really it's almost like the first one, really. It was pretty easy. It was just a lot of text to read, but that's good. That's all right. I like that. We'll see how it continues. I'm sure the 5th episode is not far off from my doorstep. Alrighty. That's all there is to say, really. Unless I missed something, I guess we can look at if there's any other, like, hidden... No, there was nothing hidden. Alright, we got everything. Cool. Alrighty then. My name is Mangg. This has been Hunt a Killer Blair Witch Episode 4. See you fine folks next time.